Iowa State 5, Mark.
Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Alana Corwin. I am a junior studying entrepreneurship here at Iowa State.
Awesome. As I mentioned in our email, and as I mentioned right before this, it's going to start with just one thing. Tell me your story.
Oh boy. So, I was adopted when I was 3 years old. My father was an immigrant from Mexico, while my mother was from Iowa and Waterloo. He was deported before I was born, and so I never got to meet him. He died of cancer in Mexico. From there, I was adopted when I was 3 years old into my family, and I and my younger brother were removed because of a child abuse situation, CPS and all that jazz, I guess, and yeah.
You left off in your childhood. Can you tell me a little bit about your early schooling years?
Yeah, I went to a really small school. My graduating class was of 72. I was one of two or three women of color in my high school, and so that was very interesting. But high school, I started to struggle a little bit with my mental health in high school. I struggled a lot with my own identity and struggled a lot with that taboo of what I've been through and the stigma of having that conversation with people, explaining my past or things that I do because of these things. So that was high school, and then from there I came to Iowa State because I originally wanted to join hospitality management because I wanted to create a retreat center for people who had experienced things that I have. But from there I fell in love with entrepreneurship, and that's where I started a business called Apricity, where I work to create hybrid mental health curriculums for people who struggle and don't have access to traditional mental health care in their communities. Wow. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about your decision to join Iowa State.
Yeah, so I'm from maybe an hour and a half away from here, so it's right in that sweet spot, not being too close to home, but also far away that I know my family is there for me if I need them. But Iowa State is just, it's like you walk on campus and you just feel like at home. It's like that moment of when you first come and you're like, oh, like I belong here. Iowa State has just so many excellent programs and things for people of all interests and backgrounds, and I just loved it. There's so much diversity in different experiences that you can have here, and it's just really enriching as a person.
You talked about some things that happened to you while you were in your childhood that led you to want to start your own business. Mm-hmm. Can you tell me how those things affected you and how they continue to affect you now in either positive or negative ways?
Yeah, so I experienced physical abuse at the hands of some family members, or past family members, and from there I started struggling with trauma symptoms, not being able to sleep, feeling very depressed, struggling with wanting to exist sometimes with these kinds of things that happen to me. But when I had access to start attending therapy, I realized that a lot of the things that happen to you as a person, you have the decision to control how you react to these things. And I realized one of the reasons I struggled so much with these things is because I felt very lonely in my experiences, and that people weren't talking about the trauma experiences that they might have had as a person. And so I realized if I spoke about my experiences, other people wouldn't feel as alone in what they have gone through. And so that's just something that really clicked with me, that if I can stand up for something that needed to be spoken about and also use it as an experience to create something out of it, then that'd be good, I guess.
Yeah. So I want to kind of go back a little bit again, back in time. Can you tell me a little bit about your community growing up, your friends, your family? Who was there to support you?
Mm-hmm. To be honest, it was my friends mostly. I was very lucky in high school. My oldest friend, I actually met them in kindergarten and we're friends to this day. He came to Iowa State as well. I'm very lucky. In like middle school and high school, I had the best group of friends ever. We were very close because we shared a lot of stories with each other and just like we shared the experience of growing up together. They were some of the key defining factors of realizing when I needed to reach out for help, but also made me feel welcomed as I was and didn't pass judgment on different things. So they were just amazing. Definitely my friends.
Perfect. All right, so going into the future a little bit more, I want to hear a little bit more about your Iowa State experience. You say you're a junior here, and you've clearly done a lot of work within entrepreneurship. So I want to hear more about your time here. Absolutely, just go ahead and tell me everything you want.
Yeah, so I am a Hickson Scholar, Christina Hickson Opportunity Awards here at Iowa State, and it's a scholarship that are given to people who have experienced something that could impact them being able to graduate high school and come to a college or university. And from there, I had a peer mentor duo who were amazing my freshman year. I attended a class and had a lot of resources open to me for my freshman year. And from there, that kind of just sparked my interest in being able to be a leader for other people. And so I was a peer mentor as well for the Hickson Opportunity Awards. And from there, I transitioned to being a peer mentor for the Transitions program, which is people who were in the hospitality industry, who came from a community college or were new to the industry. So I peer mentored there. And I'm also an RA. I RA at Lyon Hall over in the Blythe community. So I guess I've held a lot of leadership roles, but only because I've been inspired to be able to help other people in the way that others have helped me. So.
Perfect. Alrighty, I really only have a couple of questions left for you. We're kind of speed running this. No worries though. Do you feel welcome at Iowa State?
I do, but at the same time, I get a little spooked sometimes, but only because a lot of the DEI programs are being rolled back, because a lot of things are changing than when it was when I was a freshman here. It's like the Hickson Opportunity Awards, which was like a home for me. My freshman year is going to be ending soon, and I know a lot of scholarships are being changed, a lot of opportunities are being changed, offices are closing, especially as a person of color who is seeing this loss. It's a little bit jarring, but at the same time, Iowa State's my home. I've really made it my home here, and shoot. Okay. It is very frustrating to me as a person of color who has also undergone traumatic experiences, because it seems to me that Iowa State is a very majority-based campus. I mean, we're in Iowa, of course it is, but carrying these kinds of experiences also, as I went to a high school where I was the only Latina girl in my entire high school class. I was the only female of Latina, or of Latin heritage in my high school class. And just coming to Iowa State and then being able to surround myself with people who are like me was very amazing. It helped a lot in being able to feel like I wasn't alone in my experiences and that there's people out there who are like me. But having DEI rolled back is something that makes me very frustrated, because sometimes it makes me feel like the people who are in charge of making these kinds of decisions don't empathize or necessarily care about the experiences of students who come from backgrounds such as I, whether or not it be a person of color or somebody who has experienced traumatic things. It makes you feel unseen, like your needs are not going to be met in the future. And that's something that scares me, not only for myself, but for the future of Iowa State, to think that students may not feel welcome here as I did, because coming in as a freshman, it's like I knew that there were things for me and that there was help out there if I needed it for people like me. But I understand that people are looking to be more welcoming of everybody, but if you're welcoming to all, that kind of leaves a gap for those who need extra support, I guess. Yeah. There's a reason equity is in there. Equal does not mean equity. Equity is people get what they need to succeed. And if everybody was equal, that just makes it hard for people who didn't have a fair chance at life.
All right. What inspires you?
Ooh, probably other people. I love hearing about other people's stories and the things that they've gone through and like what makes them as a person too. I love listening to podcasts, especially like the Moth podcast. I love listening to other people's stories. Being a human is so diverse, and not only in cultures or backgrounds and stuff like that, but it's so cool to see the stories and how other people have experienced life. And I just think that that's so cool. So I started Apricity. Apricity is an old Latin term that means the sunlight on a cold winter's day. So it's like when you step out in the cold and it's freezing and it's snowing and everything, but then the sun is shining right in your face, and just that little bit of warmth is like a guiding light, and it just makes you feel okay, even if you're freezing. But Apricity stands for being able to make mental health care more widely accessible and affordable for everybody. Growing up, I didn't have access to mental health care, especially when I really needed it. So being able to live with that kind of situation really sparked that interest in me of being able to provide that for other people. It's like the saying, be the change you want to see in the world. And so creating this kind of program and product for people who really need it is what is kind of the driving force behind that. But the motto is here for the we, because I don't want mental health care or healthcare in general to be seen as something that is only accessible to people who have insurance or have consistent access to healthcare professionals. It's important to me that anybody, regardless of where they come from or their income or anything like that, has access to care. So Apricity is a journal that is combined with a planner, goal tracking, in one, but it also has an NFC tag with it. This NFC tag is something that you touch your phone to it, and it brings you to pre-recorded lectures or activities that are catered to your individual mental health needs. And so that's just kind of the idea that I had. And then I was accepted to SciStarters, the SciStarters cohort 9, where I pitched my product, was accepted, and then spent the entire summer developing my business as it is now. We're hoping to launch December 1st of next year. I'm working with manufacturers and different industry professionals to create a product right now, but I'm really excited about it. I hope that because I went through something, I'm able to help somebody else and really be there to have my product be there for somebody who needs it, I guess.
I have a couple more questions regarding your business, your company that you're starting.
Yeah.
So how long have you been working on it? And do you have any partners? Are you just working solo? Tell me a little bit more about the process, I suppose.
So I actually had this idea in COVID. When you're sitting there bored, you got nothing to do, and like the creative juices just starts flowing in your brain, and you're like, what can I do to help the world? Is kind of like what I was going for. It first started as an idea of like a planner, but it also helped you thinking about different goals that you wanted to hit, like exercise and nutrition and stuff like that. And from there, it kind of just sat in the back of my head through high school, through my first few years at college, until I was lucky enough to meet some of the people in entrepreneurship. And her name is Megan. She's an absolutely amazing individual, but she works at the Papa John Center, and I met her, and she encouraged me to apply to a pitch competition that was being held in a couple days. So I had like less than 48 hours to prepare a pitch, to prepare materials, and to really solidify what I wanted to talk about. And that was my first experience ever in business, was a pitch competitions that I had 48 hours to understand. I didn't win, but that's totally okay. From there, that kind of really sparked my interest, and I applied to be in the SciStarters cohort, which is you prepare a pitch, and I had a lot longer to prepare this time, and I did end up getting in. I was one of 13 businesses, I believe, that went on this summer. And it really just solidified that I had an idea that other people saw as worthwhile to invest in, to give me those resources to flourish and to be able to bring something that was very dear to me to fruition, to life. And so from there, it just it's like that little spark that I got from that pitch competition just grew into this flame of hope in my chest that someday I'm gonna be able to create something that will bring inspiration and health and to make life easier for other people. That's just something that I really hope happens, and that's something that brings a lot of passion and happiness to me. When I was young, I struggled a lot with feeling worthless at some points, like what meaning did my life have behind it? But with business and being able to create a product to help people, it makes me hope that someday what I create is going to be able to help a lot of people. On my biological mother's side, I am Caucasian, but on my biological father's side, I am Mexican. But I was adopted into an all-white household. My parents were white, my brothers were white. I was the only person of color in my family, in my extended family, and then, of course, the only girl of Latin roots at my high school, in my high school class. And so I always felt very alienated. When you're young, there's always those little puzzles that are like, circle the one that doesn't belong. And that's something I really struggled with growing up, because it always felt like looking at my family portraits, I was the one who didn't belong. And I was like, circle me. But coming to Iowa State, I feel like I felt very welcomed because there was so much more diversity than I was used to growing up, and that really helped me feel more at home in myself, in my own existence. But at the same time, now that time has passed and I've learned more about the DEI being rolled back and all these different programs that helped me feel at home, it kind of makes you feel like your foundation is getting a little shaky, like the house of cards is gonna fall. I've already seen like different protests and different organizations trying to stand up and speak about these kinds of things. It makes me nervous, not only for myself feeling at home here, but for the future students of Iowa State who lived like me. I hope that they'll be able to find peace, that they do belong at higher education, and that their hopes and dreams are valid, and that they don't need to change themselves to fit in at another space. Yeah.
How do DEI rollbacks affect people that are underprivileged or lesser privileged? How does it affect those people?
It'll hurt a lot of people. Coming to Iowa State, I had such an experience of being welcomed for who I was and knowing that I had a lot of resources and people behind me who were really there to lift me up. And I think I can credit that to how far I've been able to develop into the person I am today, and reach so many goals that I had. But if these things are leaving, the people who are coming next are not going to have the same experience that I did. And that's kind of scary, because sometimes it feels like some people are going to start being left behind, whether or not they can afford tuition, whether or not they have a safe place to come back to rest. The people who may not care about these kinds of things, that's where privilege is kind of showing. If you don't care about these things, then they probably don't impact you. And if they don't impact you, that probably means that you have a lot of privilege that you may not realize, whether or not that be wealth disparity, whether or not that be a person of majority ancestry. It can be very frustrating because as a person of color, it makes me feel sometimes that my struggles are not seen and that I do not get credit for how much harder things have been for me. It's leveling the playing field, except if you're coming from a background of wealth disparity, if you're coming from a background of diverse ethnicities or cultural experiences, the playing field isn't level. In fact, like sometimes you're not even on the same playing field as others. People who have both parent households, people who grew up as a majority, people who grew up not worrying about whether or not they're gonna lose their health insurance or something like that. And then there's others on a whole nother playing field, people who worry about day to day if they're gonna be able to afford their bills, people who are experiencing food insecurity, people who may not have a safe home to go back to. And I feel like these DEI programs are there to help make sure that we're both playing on the same kinds of fields. And it's very frustrating because it feels like the people who don't care about these things are the people playing on field A, whereas the people who are scared and are nervous about these things being left behind are playing on field B. The point of DEI is to combine those both fields so that people, no matter where they come from or the experience that they have a fair and equal chance to raise themselves out of these experiences. And it's just very frustrating to think about that some people might not have that someday.